Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 11th Annual Culturama. This is our second weekend of exclusively online workshops, and we are here today for the workshop on Help, I Hate Revising with Stephanie Barbie Hammer. My name is Lloyd Aquino. I am the coordinator for Culturama and the professor of poetry at Mount San Antonio College in Walnut, California. Let me tell you a little bit about Stephanie, and then I'll turn things over to her to lead you through our fantastic workshop today. Stephanie Barbie Hammer is a 7-time Pushcart Prize nominee in fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, and the author of 7 published books, 2 novels, 1 novelette, 1 novella, and 3 collections of poetry. Wait, she lied. She also wrote a handbook on how to write magical realism. So there's a little bit of revision even in her bio right there. So Stephanie, turn things over to you.
Thank you so much, Lloyd. And you're right. I was revising even as I talked about myself. Hi, everybody. It's so great to see you all. Before we go any further, I want to read our community agreements. It's something that I like to do. And I want to give a shout out to my wonderful colleague from Hugo House, Seattle, Shankar Narayan. My community agreement statement is based on his. As part of the Culturama creative community, we are hoping to learn from each other as we form together a beautiful and supportive writing circle that is mindful, generous, patient, curious, and kind, as well as anti-racist, LGBTQIA affirming, and inclusive. To that end, we want to be mindful of the amount of time and space each one of us takes up. For those who tend to talk a lot, please encourage others to speak while you listen. And for those who don't like to talk a lot, I know this is hard, but try experimenting with taking up just a little bit more space. We're all going to make mistakes because no one of us knows everything. But between how many of us are there? Between the 8 of us, we sure do know a lot. So thank you so much. I'm going to continue on. And let's see, we've got 8 people all together. Um, I would love to go around the room since we're a smallish group and just hear from everybody what your name is, what pronouns you prefer, and what, if anything, you're working on. And I'm just going to go around the room. The sort of vagaries of Zoom means that it's just very hard for us to speak all at once. So I'm going to go around the room, and directly to my right is Andrew Turner.
Well, you're directly to my right, so Zoom is doing some funky things. So my name is Andrew Turner, he, him, fine. And then I'm working on a lot of stuff. The current revision project I'm working on is a novel.
Okay, great. And do you have, Andrew, did you bring a little piece of it that you want to work on here in this class, or you're just interested in kind of general thoughts about how to revise?
Just general thoughts, see if I can pick up something new. I have it here, I can share it. If if there's a there might be a little snippet, but it gets to be a little bit hard when it's the middle of a piece. So
Right, got it, got it. How long is your book right now?
no clue. It's
Oh,
been between, I haven't exported it to Word to do the word count, but it's somewhere between 40 and 70,000.
okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome, Andrew. It's always so great to see you. Derek, you are the next person, and you can either talk or you can share in the chat if that's what you prefer. So what you like to be called, what your pronouns are, and what you're writing, what you're working on. And thanks, Derek. Oh, you're an artist. How awesome. I bow to artists. I have no talents in those directions, but I love art. So that's awesome. And general stuff, no worries. Thank you very much and welcome. And now I'm going to call on my wonderful former student from Edmonds College, Asriel. Asriel, you can either talk or put in the chat what you like to be called, your pronouns, what you're working on.
Hey everybody, my name is Azriel, he, him pronouns, and I'm working on revising 2 novels right now and a short story.
Okay, great. And thanks for your correction. You know, it's Asriel, not Asriel. I'm making you.
Yeah, well, everybody
German.
makes that mistake. Literally every single person. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's very kind of you. Well, it's just great. It's great to hear your voice and great to be in contact.
Yeah,
with
it's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, Asriel was in my English 101 at Edmonds Community College, and he's a fabulous writer, and now he's writing novels. So that's so awesome. That's the best thing. So thank you so much. Lydia S., you are next on my screen. So you can talk or put in the chat, whichever you prefer. Name, pronouns, what you're working on.
Sure. Hi, my name's Lydia. My pronouns are she, her, they. It's fine. I started writing poetry about a year ago. It's not my profession. I wrote consistently for about 6 months and then I abandoned it and now I'm getting back into it. So I have about 20 poems to choose from for today.
Wonderful. Oh, yay. It's great to have a poet in the room. Huzzah. And wonderful that you've got so many, Lydia. Wow, that's awesome. The things that I'm going to talk about are going to apply both to poetry and prose. And at the end of class, if there's more we need to talk about, we can do that then. But thank you so much. Okay, next in my row is Riley. And Riley, you can either talk or put in the chat what you like to be called, what your pronouns are, and what you're working on.
Hello, my name is Riley. My pronouns are they, them, and I am just getting into poetry and writing. So I'm just interested in, yeah, general learning about everything about poetry and writing. So yeah.
Yay, I want to know everything about poetry and writing too. Because feels like there's so much. Well, welcome, Riley. It's wonderful, wonderful to meet you, and welcome to Writing World. And next on my screen is Tiffany. And
Hi,
Tiffany, sorry, go ahead.
Tiffany Elliott. Pronouns are she, her, and I'm a poet. I have a book, and I am currently working on getting together another book and you know, writing, always writing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tiffany, and congratulations on your book. Oh my gosh, it's like huge.
Thank you.
It's the hugest thing, and it stays a huge thing. And that's what's so awesome about it. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. This is really, really this is helpful to me. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my presentation. We're going to do a little bit of writing, and then we'll kind of proceed that way. And feel free to ask a question in the chat if something isn't clear. I'll try to keep an eye on it, but if I don't, Lloyd, will you kind of nudge me and say there are questions in the chat, because sometimes my eyes tend to wander. Okay, so I'm going to share my handy dandy presentation. If I can get the share thing to work. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is Help I Hate Revising. Some quick fixes from a published author who also still hates making revisions. And I do. I think there are writers who just live for this. They live to revise. It's just and they can fuss and fool around for ages. I love writing. I love that burst, or even not that burst, that dribble of writing. That's great. But having to sit down and go, okay, what am I going to do well, it should be like this. And I think it is for some people. But for me, revising is like this. This is my husband, who is actually my writing partner right now, Larry, being horrified by revising. So what I've got are a few kind of go-to tasks that I just do automatically whenever I have to revise something. And here they are. 6 things to think about, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on one of them in a second. Okay. My big thing is to start with is what can I cut out? Because I personally don't have a problem generating language, as some of you who know me have realized. That's not a problem. But I like to pare things back and then, if necessary, blow them back up again. I don't know who told me about this adverbs wisdom, but if you have one of your pieces of writing right in front of you, if you have a paragraph that you're working on, if you have a poem you're working on, if you have a short story, what you can do right now is cut out very and really, including if really is a question, because there's a better way to ask that question. No bullshit, no kidding, no would be a stronger response. So cut out adverbs like very and really, just do it. Think about it. I was really hungry. I was hungry, period. She was really angry. She was angry, period. Those are stronger sentences. They were very sad. They were sad, period. I am not such a huge fan of Ernest Hemingway, but this is something that Hemingway totally got right because he eschewed, aka avoided, adverbs like very and really. Okay, I'm now going to stop the share if I can find the button, and we're going to do something a little different for a second. Okay, what I'd like you to do now, just for the heck of it, is take out a piece of paper if you're old school, or open up a Word document or whatever document, blank one, and I want you to write a dialogue between 2 people planning a murder. I'm stealing this from I taught a mystery novel class a little while ago. So 2 people, they can be 2 characters you're already working on, or 2 new ones, but I want 2 characters really having a conversation about planning a murder. And I'm going to give you 7 minutes to do that. And just have at it. Again, this could be a scene from a kind of for the novel people, this could be a scene from your novel. You could take a couple of characters and have them do this, but let's give it a whirl. I am going to mute myself and I'm going to time us.
What kind of timing are we doing?
7 minutes.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Hey there, Kitty. I'm going to write some instructions for you in the chat because we're doing a little writing exercise.
Okay.
I'm going to give everybody a couple more minutes, especially since Kitty just joined us. So let's go for another couple minutes. And remember, don't edit, just keep on writing. Okay, maybe finish your thought. Let's have one last line in the conversation. Also, everybody, if you have other ideas that you want to include, either write them, if you're on paper, write them down, or just type in a couple of keywords so you can go back, because you might want to use this. It's possible. Okay, so who has a longish dialogue? Andrew. Andrew, would you share what you've written?
Yes. It's very silly.
Great.
Ezekiel paced alongside the knotted pine table, shaking his head. No, no, Bert, do you not understand? We have to do this and do it the right way. Like there's a right way, Bert scoffed. Then he took a huge bite out of his apple and spit out a few seeds. Knock him off is all that needs to be done. Shovel, gun, pills, water, toaster, you name it. Don't matter at all one bit, Ez. Ezekiel turned sharply. You have no finesse, no style. The taller man sighed. Fine, I won't be so picky, but please, you know how much I detest messes. All right, Bert said, holding up his hand. No messes. I can do no mess. Call me No Mess Bert. So let's bring the clamps. How about that? You always like the clamps. And Ezekiel said, his eyes shining, let's also bring the tank. Tomorrow night, then, when we're at the party, we'll get him upstairs, right? Like the Louisa job, bathtub. Ah, yeah, one of my faves, Bert sighed. Man, that one's going to live in my head forever. Yeah, like the Louisa job. Use the tank first, get him high as a kite, and then, oh no, let's get you to the bathroom to sober up, and then boom, water going. Yes, and then, Ezekiel said, I'll bring out the socket converter. Together, they said, and then the clamps.
Yay! This is why I love making people do free writes, because it's the gift that keeps on giving. Thank you so much, Andrew. Would anybody else like to share theirs? Yes, no, maybe?
I mean, I could, but mine kind of went off the rails.
Oh, goody. I would
Uh,
love to, please read, Tiffany. That would be awesome. Off the rails, yes.
She has it coming. You know she does. So do I. The million tiny cuts, the cuts that bleed, the blood that drips, the blood that stains her hands. No, not literal blood. Might as well be. She is an assassin. What? An assassin of character, of life, of joy. Oh, that's what you meant. Well, she deserves it. On that we can agree. The yarn of your heart, the claw of her paw batting, the shine in her eye. I felt her glare on me the other day, like a knife. No, like knives, like 1,000 tiny needles in the skull. Once a porcupine filled my dog's nose with needles, and she turned her head from us, refused to let us near, tried to bury the problems in the arroyo's sandbanks. I still hear her squealing. The porcupine waddled off ages ago. No accountability, no knowledge. How is it to know the dog was only curious? To know the too close eyes were not predating today? To know the gentleness of her mouth when she brought us a wounded baby bird, her eyes full and sad, when she dropped its tiny feathered body into my mother's hand too late for saving. To the porcupine, she was only a mouth, two close-set eyes, sharp canines poking from her lips, the scent of meat on her breath.
Wow. Congratulations. Oh, wow, that's a very powerful free write. Wow. Yeah, it went off the rails in the best possible way. Wow. I love what? That's great. You see, now that might have been a really, or a really? What? Much more powerful than really. Awesome. I'm looking at our time. I think we have time to hear one more. Lloyd, you were writing a lot. Do you want to read yours?
Sure. Oh yeah, sure.
Hi.
Okay, hang on. Mine's just dialogue, so
Good.
there's you go back and forth again. Quick and painless, that's the way. No mess, no fuss. Just cross the T's and dot the I's. In and out, lickety split. Yes, sir. So not the cord then? Nah, it takes too long, and you'll have to listen to endless grunting and choking, and no one ever thinks about this one. Numb fingers. It takes forever to get the feeling back in them if you've been strangulating someone with a cord. You're right. I never did think of that. No one ever does. Learning by doing is fine and all, but you can learn just as much from others' experiences, more even. How many people have you strangled? Me? Not a single soul. Do them all in with this here needle to the heart. Same as those lethal injections they give prisoners on death row. I know a guy. And here's the thing, even if you miss the heart, no matter where you stick them, dead in a jiffy. Aren't you afraid of poking yourself with that? Nah, I'm a professional, and that's where I stopped.
Yay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And for the folks just joining us thinking, what the heck is this? I just I just asked everyone to write a conversation between two characters planning a murder. So sorry if that seemed kind of, what is this? Okay. So what I'd like everybody to do now is I would like you to take what you've written and I'd like you to cut every other sentence. Just take a couple of minutes. Take a few minutes and cut every other sentence. Just in a kind of a very mechanical way. You can cross it out. You can do it however you want, maybe because you don't want to lose your complete draft, but this was an exercise that the writer Rob Roberge taught in his introductory class. This is not, I always like to give credit where credit is due, and this is actually an exercise he devised. He writes fiction and nonfiction. So hopefully you've done that. And again, folks who joined late, this is something you can try writing just making up a conversation between two people planning a murder. And then after you've done that, just cutting every other sentence. Okay. So I'll give you another minute. And now let's hear these again. So Andrew, can you read what you've got? You're muted.
No, I can't. I'm not done editing yet.
Okay, I'll give you, sorry, don't mean to rush you.
I-
I'll give
Yeah, it's just there's a
I-
lot of sentences there, so I have to cut them out.
I finished if you need somebody.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, Tiffany, please go.
She has it coming. So do I. The
Mhm.
cuts that bleed, the blood that stains her hands, might as well be. She is an assassin of life. Oh, that's what you meant. On that we can agree. The claw of her paw batting. I felt her glare on me the other day. No, like knives. Once a porcupine filled my dog's nose with needles, and she turned her head from us, tried to bury the problem in the arroyo's sandbanks. The porcupine waddled off ages ago. No knowledge. To know the two close eyes were not predating that day. To know the gentleness of Tina's mouth when she brought us a wounded baby bird. When she dropped its tiny feathered body into my mother's hand, too late for saving. Two close set eyes, the scent of meat on her breath.
Wow. Oh God, I think that came out great. And she has it coming. So do I. It's just fabulous. Thank you so much. I think that really works. I think all the cuts really work. Is there something that you feel very sad that you've lost by cutting it out?
I mean, I'm writing about my mother as I often do. And yeah, it's been a rough month.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry it's been a rough month, but my goodness, you make beautiful work, Tiffany. You really do. And I think that the leaps that the reader now has to make, they're just little jumps from one thought to the next, really make the energy of what you've written pop. It's what you wrote before is beautiful because you're a beautiful writer, but this is much more energetic because the reader has got to do a little tiny bit of thinking to follow you. I think that that's really really was a successful mechanical edit. So thank you so much for sharing. Andrew, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's read what yours sounds like.
Ezekiel paced alongside the knotted pine table, shaking his head. Bert, do you not understand? Like there's a right way, Bert scoffed. Knock him off is all that needs to be done. Ezekiel turned sharply. The taller man sighed. All right, Bert said, holding up his hands. I can do no mess. So let's bring the clamps. You always like the clamps. And Ezekiel said, his eyes shining, let's also bring the tank, like the Louisa bathtub. Man, that one's going to live in my head forever. Use the tank first, get him high as a kite, and then, oh no, let's get you to the bathroom to sober up, and then boom, water going. Together, they said, and the clamps.
Yay, I'm so glad that so many of the clamps stayed in. When you were, I
They
gave
got,
you,
yeah, they were the right ones.
right. Yes, isn't that crazy? Yeah, with yours, I thought, oh, I hope we don't lose the clamps because clamp is such a funny word. It's horrifying but funny. And I thought, oh, but the mechanical edit worked. So cool.
It took out some things that I think made it funnier
Right.
because it's made
Right.
it this made it a lot drier,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
which I think was interesting.
Yes, it was drier. For sure. And yeah, there may have been some things that got left out that you feel sad about. I get that. Okay, Lloyd, how about you? Are you ready to share your edited piece?
Yeah.
Okay,
As
let's
I was
hear it.
reading it through again, I had to tweak a couple of sentences just
Right,
so they flow a
understood.
little bit better. But it mostly worked.
Okay,
Um,
yay.
so,
So let's hear it.
uh, quick and painless. That's the way. Just cross the T's and dot the I's. Yes, sir. Not the chord then? Nah, it takes too long. And no one ever thinks about this one. It takes forever to get the feeling back in your fingers if you've been strangulating someone with a cord. I never did think of that. Learning by doing is fine and all, but you can learn just as much from others' experiences. How many people have you strangled? Not a single soul. I give them one of those lethal injections they give prisoners on death row. And here's the thing, even if you miss the heart, no matter where you stick them, dead in a jiffy. Aren't you afraid of poking yourself with that? I'm a professional.
Oh, yay. Oh gosh, that ending. I'm a professional. I'm a professional. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for bearing with me and doing this. Kind of, it's like, wait, I'm taking a class on revision. Why am I generating this new weird, scary story? Well, because it's always great if you can make some work, always. But what the thing I want you to think about is, and these are all beautiful excerpts that we heard. But something that I think people tend to forget is the dialogue actually slows the reading down. A conversation doesn't make your book or whatever your piece faster. It's slower. So that you don't, when you're writing dialogue, writing a conversation, you don't want to imitate exactly how people talk and exactly that tempo that people use. You want to, in the olden days, you'd say telegraph. Now we'd say tweet or threads, the ideas. And this is a fantastic, very mechanical editing exercise that you can use, which is to just, you look at a scene that has a conversation in it, and you just cut every other sentence and see what you got. As Lloyd pointed out, well, I did this, but I had to tweak it a little bit, so it sometimes isn't perfect. Tiffany, you may have some things in your piece that you'd want to add back in.
That's actually what I'm doing right now.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
That's actually what I'm doing right now.
Awesome. Yay. But it's a very easy, unthinky, for those of us who hate revising, which is your teacher and perhaps some of the people in this room. It's a very unthinky way to just go, okay, I got to deal with this. What do I do? Cut, 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 cut. Immediately your conversation, your scene is compressed. And I think you could hear that in from all three brave people who read. Thank you so much, Andrew, Tiffany, and Lloyd. The energy goes up 100-fold. Those were much more energetic, exciting pieces. Because you cut out what is unnecessary. So I really urge you to use this tool. You can use it when you're writing a paper, frankly. Sometimes you folks still in school, I'm writing this essay, it's too long, I need to cut it. Here's my conclusion. What happens if I cut out every other sentence? It'll make it clear to you what sentences must stay, but something can probably go. And I even think it's useful, again, for my poets. I think it can be useful, Lydia, Riley, and Tiffany. I think it can be useful in poetry also. Sometimes there's dialogue in poetry too. A lot of my poems are about a conversation. And I actually used this technique very recently on a poem that I was submitting to an anthology, and where there was a line limit on the poem. And I thought, ooh, what am I going to do? And I went back into the dialogue. There were actually 2 dialogues in it. And I did this exercise. So I think this is really kind of a gold standard thing to do. And I think it'll be really, really useful to you, which is why I wanted to spend some time on it. Okay, are there any questions about this, about the cutting the dialogue practice? I just am seeing Lloyd's. This is definitely not a Zoom where we are planning a murder together. Okay, good. I'm glad that was made clear by the official host of this proceedings. Great. I'm going to go back to my presentation then for just a little bit and then come back out. So please bear with me. Okay, so we've just done the dialogue exercise, which is actually usable for sentences and for description. But I think the advantage of it is very clear when you're talking about dialogue, that you want to kind of telegraph the ideas of in a conversation rather than spelling everything out and imitating the tempo of a real conversation. Okay, other things to think about. Again, those of the folks who joined a little bit late, here are the 6 hacks, the 6 things to think about. Cut out adverbs like very and really, dialogue exercise that we've done. Next, does the title of your piece help or get in the way? My experience lately has been that shorter titles are more appealing to slush pile readers and editors than bigger titles. Although people use big titles, I have not personally had great luck with that. I've had a better time using a shorter, more hopefully evocative title, which I do on a piece that I'm actually going to share a little bit about in a second. The next question to ask yourself is, does your piece, poem, story, essay, novel, start later, like in the second paragraph or in the second verse? And I'm going to stop my share for a second. Does anybody have a poem that they could share? I'm thinking of my poets, Riley, Tiffany, and Lydia. Do you have a poem that you're working on?
I can pull one up.
Okay,
Let's-
great.
Second, I didn't pull it up earlier, sorry.
Okay, no worries. I'm putting you on the spot a lot. And while we're waiting for you, Tiffany, Andrew, do you want to pull up the very beginning of your novel?
Okay, I have it when you're ready.
Yeah.
Great. And Azriel, while you're waiting, you too, if you could pull up the very beginning of your novel, whichever one you want. Okay,
Okay.
Tiffany, yeah.
Okay, this is a piece I'm working on. It's just very short. I have kind of a title, Let There Be Thorns. Plant me in soil, fold me across the ditch, rhubarb me, file my life under unextraordinary. Where there would be flowers, instead, let there be thorns, a row of spines barbed for the entry, bright colors striping my length, calling to all who would trespass, telling them, I am here.
Okay, great. Yes, it is short. Thank you so much. Now, Let There Be Thorns is a direct quote from your poem.
Yeah,
So-
I haven't come up with anything better.
Right.
I was
So,
just,
yeah, go on.
I was known for being terrible at titles in grad school. So,
Well, it's you're a wonderful writer, and we can't all be perfect at everything or at anything, probably. I'm wondering if thorns would do it. It sets you up for Let There Be Thorns, but it isn't a direct quote, just a thought. The other thing that occurs to me that might be something fun is plant me across the ditch is pretty great as a line. Is that the beginning? Again, I don't know, but it's something to think about. What's the first line? Remind me.
plant me in soil
Yeah. Yeah.
and then hold me across the ditch.
Yeah.
It,
Again,
Uh,
kind of, go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was just gonna say it's not exactly, so the first line is plant me in soil, fold me, and then across the ditch.
Fold me across the ditch. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love across the ditch because it's so surprising. It's such an interesting sound also, since we're working with poetry. It's such an interesting sound that I kind of would love across the ditch as the start to this, just because it's such a great hook. It's your poem, so you get to decide what you want to do. But that's just if we were kind of operating with does it start later, kind of
Yeah,
thinking about that.
You think starting with fold me across the ditch or just across the ditch?
I think either. I'd have to hear the whole poem again and look at the whole poem again. Fold is pretty good as a verb. Again, and kind of surprising. So that might be, again, I'd have to look at, since it's the shortest poem, I'd have to see the whole thing in front of me. But I think either of those could work. And I think I like them better than your first line.
Mm-hmm.
Although your first line's great. I mean, again, it's just these sorts of tweaks. What, again, folks who've worked, in fact, you know this, Tiffany, what pops more? What of the language pops more?
And I could share my screen if that would be helpful.
Yeah. Let me circle back to you maybe after we've heard from the other folks. Okay,
Absolutely.
okay, thank you so much, Tiffany. Andrew, do you have the beginning of your novel?
Yeah, I can also share it on screen if you want.
Okay, why don't you just is the first paragraph very long?
It's about 100 words.
Okay. Then maybe and how long is your second paragraph?
It is 83 words. They're
Okay.
they're quite long.
Okay, all right. Well, you know what? Let's take a quick look, at least at the very beginning.
Okay. I don't know if I can share screen, but I can read it.
Okay, why don't you read us the first paragraph?
Okay, no, now Lloyd got me on
I
there.
just
Okay.
opened it up to share.
Oh, here we go. I see the screen.
Okay, do you want me to read it?
Okay,
Or
you
just
know what?
leave it up
Hold
on
on. Let
screen?
me just let me just take a look at it.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm just again taking a really quick look. And thank you so much for sharing, Andrew. And thanks everybody for being so flexible about how to do this. I'm just again trying to address some specific issues. I think that I would vote to start this in paragraph 2. Every night after a concert on the last couple of tours, it was all Rye, since we need the name now, could do to hold together enough to make it through the day and the shows at night. He stared at the bottle, and I love I'm all for luxury sheets. I saw that and went, oh great, but we maybe could use those later, because
Yeah.
again, the beginning it's got to pop, and I'm interested in Rye because the stakes are already quite high for him. Apparently, it's all he could do to make it through the day. And there he is staring at that bottle of Jack Daniels and wondering and so forth and so on. So that's, again, these are real quick and dirty edits, everybody. And thank you so much for your patience and goodwill, Tiffany and Andrew, as I kind of run through all of this. But that's, I think, an example of a story that maybe gets underway and gets going in the second paragraph, and then we get, but that wasn't in the fucking contract, and I'm interested. What's the contract? What's going on? Let's go. So that would be a suggestion I would make about this book. And it's also, everybody, something you can think about if you're writing a longer piece, if you're thinking about chapters. Does your chapter start in paragraph 1, or does it maybe start later? It's possible. Okay, Andrew, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your screen, or Lloyd, or whoever. And Israel, do you have the beginning of your novel at hand?
I do. It does start with an epigraph. Like I have one of those for each chapter. So I don't know if you
Okay.
want to look at that or the actual first paragraph.
Okay, let's look at the epigraph and then at the first paragraph, if you can
Okay.
share.
Okay. Let's see. Is that working?
Yes, I can see it. Okay, so we have an epigraph.
And I think just listening to that, I'm realizing the beginning of this definitely has a lot more words than are needed, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. So what would you talk to us about what you'd cut?
Well, I'm considering like this whole first starting paragraph. I do like the epigraph.
Yeah,
And I think
get
it
you.
sets a good tone for like
Yeah.
what the story is going to be.
Right. And
But
this is fantasy science fiction combination, correct?
Yeah.
Right. So we need the signal that this is another world that we're talking about. So I feel you on that.
Yeah, and I think like one of my favorite series ever is Wheel of Time, and at the beginning of each of those books, it starts with this sort of big outside perspective of like the wind going across mountains or whatever. And I think I like tried to kind of replicate that with sort of a bigger picture, kind of like zoning in, and then the second paragraph starts with like the character name
Right.
and gets a little bit more specific. But I don't know if I did that well, and I don't know if it could be better. I don't really know.
Yeah, thank you for talking about the epigraph. Yeah, I'm realizing we talked a little bit on email about Dune, and Dune has those epigraphs at the beginning of those chapters.
Hmm.
And so it's a nice thing to do. And again, your readers will recognize the tradition of doing that. So
Hmm.
I absolutely am down with keeping the epigraph. But once again, I'm interested in who Hark is. And the hilt of the longsword, uh-oh, he's tightened his grip. Okay, something's about to happen. I feel I'm pulled into this. His focus shifted. This is almost feels a little bit the way the first Game of Thrones book starts, which is somebody waiting for something to happen, worried that something will happen.
Hmm.
So I think again, very off the cuff, not having read any of the rest of this novel, I think I vote to keep this, maybe put this paragraph elsewhere. When I say, maybe it starts after later than it does, you can always keep the paragraph and move it someplace else, or use those sentences in that description elsewhere. But my vote would be to start in paragraph 2. For sure.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think it's like I think I'd want to move some stuff around, but it definitely like this whole first paragraph, I think was me trying to mimic something that wasn't
Yeah.
really necessary that I just liked. But
Yeah.
I think for the first paragraph of a book, it should be a little bit more gripping, and I don't think this has that at all. So
Right. Right. Well, I think we all do this, of course. We all imitate our teachers, whether our teachers are actual people that we know, or they're the writers that we admire. We of course learn from them by imitating some of the things that they do. And Israel, could you stop your share? That'd be great.
mhm.
So that's absolutely natural to do, which is, again, this is where editing and revision comes in, where you can say, oh, I don't need this yet. Or so many of us write this way, I sure do. I have to write my way into the scene. And it's true for me as a poet. Also, I write poetry too, that I sort of have to write myself into it. And once I'm there, I don't need that part that I wrote first, because that was me, kind of meandering into finding the scene and finding the characters, and even finding for me in some cases, since I don't outline, finding the inciting incident, finding the thing that's going to kind of get things going. So great. Thank you so much, folks. That really, really, really is helpful. It's helpful for, I don't know if this is true for some of you. I always learn the most when looking at somebody else's work, because looking at my own is hard. So when I look at someone else's, I go, oh, and then I think I do that too. I do that thing too. So I am going to go back to my little old, we are actually, and so does your piece start later? This is what we just reviewed. And it might end sooner. This also happens. Again, in my experience, this has happened particularly with poetry, that I've written as it takes me time to find what I'm doing, and that it sometimes takes me time to get out of it. And so in the case of a poem in particular, it might end a line or two sooner. However, it is also true that the opposite can happen. And I thought what I'd do is share a piece of mine that just came out and talk a little bit about the revisions I made to it. So I'm gonna hopefully get us over here. Can you all see Island People?
No, we're seeing
Yes,
PowerPoint.
you're seeing PowerPoint. Okay, hold on. Let me stop the share. And let me go here. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. This is a nonfiction piece of mine that just was published recently.
Can we zoom in a
So
bit?
I'm sorry?
Could we
Can
zoom
I?
in a bit?
But-
It's very small.
How about now?
Thanks so much.
Of course, thank you. This is a piece of flash nonfiction that appeared very recently. The original title was People on the Other Side of the Bridge, because it's about a bridge. That was the original title. And I sent it someplace with that original title. Most of this, and again, I can put the link in the chat so that you can go look at it on your own time if you want to. This is one of several attempts of mine to talk about living on Whidbey Island in Washington and what I experienced of living there, but which was very specific to me as an urban person, as someone who's lived mostly in Southern California, and then to how I was perhaps seen by the people who lived there. Okay. So the first part is me and my husband talking about why we moved there and what we experienced of the people. And then I really wanted to say something about what it was like for the people what I was like for the people who lived there. So I'll just read you this part very quickly. And this is the other point of view. Imagine solitude as the thing devoutly to be wished. This seclusion interrupted only by that necessary trip to the lumber yard, the one grocery store, and maybe the drive-through coffee kiosk next to the bankrupt bowling alley. Then home, alone, or if you're married with that one other person, and maybe a dog, but then the strangers come, dotting the roads with their leisurely walking, devoid of purpose, cutting into your pastoral sight lines. Strangers who, when they see you, insist on saying hello. You can't stop them, but you can sure discourage them. You can pull back behind your property line into your backyard. You can reduce outside influences, read the local paper and make your own repairs, grow vegetables and fence them to keep out the deer, kill the deer, make your own venison. You don't even fear the disease that killed so many. You embody social distancing as a practice. You don't need a vaccine, and you probably won't ever need a doctor. When you die, somebody will find you or not, and your body will rejoin the elements connected to these trees and this earth, and in that sense, infinite. It's paradise, or as close as you can come. You don't need neighbors or a bridge for that. Okay. That was how the original piece ended. And I was really pleased with it because I was like, this side and this side, my side and what I imagined their side to be. And I really enjoyed writing that part. And the piece as it stands, got rejected a couple of places. Regretfully, people, one magazine said, wow, this kept us going, but no. And I remembered something. I'm going to stop the share because you can always read this on your own. I remembered something that my nonfiction writer, Anna Maria Spagna, had told me. And it actually is something that I think applies to a lot of prose writing. She said, you want to start off with uncertainty. This is in nonfiction. And you want to end with more uncertainty. And I thought, I guess I maybe need a third section to this very short piece, flash fiction piece. I need a piece where it isn't this and this, it's something else. And I want to end not in a definitive way, but in not knowing who's right and who's wrong. Was I right because I didn't like living on Whidbey Island? Or were the Whidbey Island folks right because they thought I was a weird person? Who I thought I need to somehow get to who's right. Because that's actually an interesting problem. And of course, we're asking that question a lot right now in this country. Who's right, and what if we don't know exactly? What about that space, which seems very tiny now, but what about that space? So I ended up adding a whole other section to it that tries to be uncertain. Which brings me, as I look at 207, to my last set of thoughts. If you are trying to revise something maybe bigger, and that is, maybe it's longer than you thought. Maybe it ends after you think it does. And here's some other last thoughts. I know some people are working on novels. Even if you're not, even if you're working with a poem, here are some hacks that help. Do you have physical interaction or conflict? It doesn't need to be a murder, but a physical conflict or physical interaction helps. Does something get broken or does someone get wounded? Does something go missing or does someone go missing? Do you have a romantic or sexual scene and it doesn't have to be a positive experience? In fact, some of the more interesting books and stories are about romantic scenes that don't work. And that doesn't mean they are violent in some way. It just means they don't work. That can be very compelling. And here's a hack that I love and I've used in all my books. Do you have a dissent? Which sounds like a crazy thing to say. What do you mean? I mean, do you have a section in your book where someone goes down? They go into the basement. They fall into a ditch. They climb down a chasm. They dig a hole and go into it. They go downstairs. They go to the center of the earth. It really works. It's people have been writing that symbolic descent for thousands of years. Why shouldn't you have it in your book? And then really this is hooking into what I said about my own nonfiction piece. Is the end a box or a river? And I think that's a real question for all of these kinds of writing. If it's a poem, if it's a narrative, you don't want to close that box shut. You want to somehow have that end open up a little bit. And it can be tricky to do, but it's really, really worth your time to do. I'm going to stop my share. And because I think I'm coming to the end of my time, and my final hack is, particularly if you're writing prose, to insert every 5 sentences a physical sensation of some kind. Again, it's a hack, it's mechanical, but it does seem to work. And try the dissent, you guys. It's crazy how well that works. Crazy. And break something. I think I've got that in every book too. If something gets broken. Yeah, I'm a klutz, so I'm really happy to have things get broken. It's like, great, I can use my experience of dropping plates and dropping dishes. And I am at the end of my presentation, and I am very happy to have you ask me any question you want about writing. Thank you very much to the people who shared their work. That takes a lot of courage to do in a strange electronic room. So thank you so much. Yeah, so questions. I'm realizing I haven't talked about the middle of things at all, and I can't. Yes, Lloyd.
You were talking about one of the key questions for revising being does your piece start later?
Mhm.
Right. I just have a really fun anecdote that I like to share about that.
Please.
It's a horror story that has a happy ending. So I was working on my master's thesis, and one of my chapters that I was working on, spent about a month working on it, ended up being about 20 pages, the first draft. So I brought it to my thesis advisor, and his process was always he would read the entire thing quietly while I sat there next to him, not writing any notes. His face was very hard to read, and then he would give me the feedback after he'd finished reading. So I'm sitting there while he's reading through 20 pages of what I had written with no expression on his face, nothing, no no comments or anything. And then the very first comment he made after he finished all 20 pages was, keep the last paragraph. And it took like a couple of seconds for that to fully register. I was like, wait, so cut the rest? He's like, yes, cut the rest. You everything that you have, the first 19 and a half pages is just introduction to what you really want to talk about. And that's in that last paragraph. And you have to keep building from there. I was like, okay. And I almost quit on the spot, but luckily I kept going. Otherwise I wouldn't be here today. Running Culturama.
Well, Lloyd, you're a brave soul. I like to think that if I'd been that person, I would have found a little bit of a of a gentler way to say that, but maybe not. I don't. But what is great is that you were able to go, okay, here I
Yeah.
am. I have now. I can use this as the seed. I'm thinking of Tiffany's poem. I can use this as the seed, and I can just grow this new thing.
Right. Well, we
And
built up a rapport over the years, he and I. So it wasn't I knew where he was coming from.
yeah, so it was
But
okay.
just the thought of having to cut 19 and a half pages that I'd written was
Yeah. Oh
that,
my
that took a little bit
goodness.
of adjustment.
Yeah.
But it was for the
Yes.
best. It worked out for the best. He was
Ab-
100% right. So
Absolutely. But I think the takeaway is also, you all the things that you write are yours, everybody. So it may happen that you'll take a paragraph out of something and then go, oh, wait, it's this whole thing. And that happened to me actually with a character in my first novel who I loved, minor character. And I had a little bit more about him. He's a teenage boy. And I took that out and went, ah, and it became the novelette. It became a whole little book about him. And he's one of my favorite characters. And again, that process of pulling things out can feel like, oh, it's destructive, but it actually doesn't have to be. You can actually, again, take those lines of poems out and go, well, maybe it's its own poem now.
Mm.
And maybe it's not the first line or the last line. Maybe it's the middle, or I'm not sure what it is, but I'm going to use it. I really honestly believe that in writing, nothing is wasted, and you shouldn't throw any of your writing out.
but yeah,
Because
absolutely.
and Lloyd, you've had really had an experience of going back into writing that you did a while ago and then going, oh wait,
Mhm.
this is awesome. I'm excited. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I really love doing this work because I love helping people realize that the revision thing isn't such a big deal. It really is doable by taking pretty simple small steps. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for teaching us today, Stephanie.
You bet, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay.
Pleasure. I love hanging with you all, and I love seeing what people are writing. That's very exciting to me.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. So,
Thank you as
oh,
always,
I
Stephanie, for
forgot.
an amazing workshop.
I forgot. I forgot to
please,
pick
yeah.
my book.
Please do.
Sorry. Can you tell I'm not a salesperson? If you
Yes,
I
don't,
have a
please get this
copy.
book. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
finalist for an Indie Book Award. And it's actually made up kind of a flash fiction chapters told from multiple points of view. It's kind of a comical mystery, takes place on a train. A Latinx teacher from San Dimas who is in a pipe band meets an obnoxious girl from New York, and they search the train looking for a missing person. And there's magic in it a little bit.
It is a great book.
So now I've done,
Check it out.
phew, now I've done that job.
Glad you could get the plug in. That's it for Culturama today. We have a couple more workshops tomorrow. Betsy Mars will be teaching a workshop on persona poetry.
And
at
Andrew
9
is
a.m.
teaching tomorrow.
Yeah, Pacific Standard Time, and then at 10:30, right, Andrew?
Yeah. Yeah.
10:30. Andrew Turner, who's here right now, will be leading a workshop on evoking the senses. So if you can join us, that I hope you can join us tomorrow for the official end of the 11th annual Culturama. Thank you all for being a part of it. Thank you all for participating and being such wonderful people and wonderful writers. And have a good rest of the day,
And
everybody.
I just say, you know, from an accessibility standpoint, thank you for having both virtual and in-person session.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, we stumbled into it because of the COVID lockdown, but it's turned out to be one of the most wonderful things about Culturama. And I love being able to do this online
Yeah.
every year. So
Yeah.
we'll
Thank
try
you,
to do
Tiffany.
more.
I really agree with that. I don't drive really. So getting to places can be complicated for me. So I'm so appreciative of being able to, walk into our joint office and going, okay, I'm here, I'm present.
Yeah. Well, we're working on getting a little bit more money. So if we can get the extra money that I'm hoping for, we could possibly do a couple more events like this, not like the full Culturama event, but like individual workshops, maybe in the
Oh,
spring semester.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that will be
That's what I'm hoping.
great.
So I'm hoping for good news on that front. It sounded like it was going to be good news, but I have to wait until I get the official word on it. So yeah, Andrew, Stephanie, and other people, I might be reaching out to you about possibly leading a workshop in the spring as well. So
Both of us are very excited.
We're applauding synchronized. It's like, can you tell we're friends? Like,
I would love to keep doing it. They just need to give me money. So
They do.
yeah.
They need to give you all the money, all of it.
yes,
I wish they would give me
think
all the
so.
money.
I
Yeah.
think Lloyd deserves all the money. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and then I could just give it to all my friends and all my students, and yeah,
All the creatives.
yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with this plan at all.
And then
No,
we can make school
perfect one.
free. That's the next
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah,
Then
of
we can
course.
make
Yeah.
school free. Which would be nice. All right. Well, we've solved all the problems of the world, and it's what is
Yeah.
it? It's not
It's
even
not-
6:30.
I think
It's
that's a
not
pretty
even
productive
2:30.
workshop.
Yeah.
Have a good rest of the day. Have a good rest of your Friday,
Yes,
everybody.
happy weekend, everybody, and thanks again for joining. Thank you.
Yeah. Hope to see
Bye.
some of y'all tomorrow.
Take
Bye.
care.
Yeah. Take care, everybody.
Thank you guys for letting me attend, even though I'm up in Washington, by the way.
Oh yeah, please. I'm glad you could be a part of it.
Yeah, appreciated it. See ya.
See ya.